Hey guys! Bored of those vocab lists? Me too. At 1 Degree North Companion, we're turning Wordly Wise into an adventure to make learning actually interesting. Let's jump in.
Chances are, you've got a bottle of this stuff sitting in your kitchen right now. But have you ever really stopped to think about it? How does a thin, watery liquid from a tree turn into the thick, sweet gold you pour on your pancakes? Well, it's an incredible story, and it involves fiery autumns, a tree's hidden pulse, and get this, a global strategic reserve. So where does this all begin? Not in a factory, not in a kitchen. It starts out in the vast, sprawling maple forests of North America. And every year, as fall rolls in, these forests put on a show that is just absolutely spectacular. I mean, look at this. In the late fall, the foliage, all those leaves, it just explodes into this canvas of fiery reds and brilliant golds. And all those incredible hues, they're not just pretty to look at. Nope, they're actually the very first signal that the tree is getting ready for a long winter. And for us, a sweet harvest that's just around the corner. Okay, so fast forward through a long, cold winter. The snow starts to melt, the first signs of spring are in the air, and those very same trees, they start to offer up a completely different kind of treasure. You see these buckets hanging from the trunks? That can only mean one thing. The sugaring season has officially begun. But here's the crazy part. The stuff that's actually dripping from the tree, it's this crude, super watery liquid. It's almost tasteless. So that's the big mystery, right? How in the world does that transform into the thick, sweet, amazing syrup we all know and love? To figure that out, we have to look inside the tree itself, at its secret life. It all comes down to this perfectly timed, incredible natural phenomenon. This harvest is an annual thing, happening just once a year, and it's timed perfectly by the tree's own internal clock. It has this unique natural pump system inside it, something only a few types of trees have, that creates the pressure to make the sap flow. See, the sap doesn't just drip out whenever. The tree needs a very specific recipe of conditions. Nights that are freezing cold, followed by days that are warmer and sunny. That big temperature swing creates a change in pressure inside the tree. During the day, it pushes the sugary sap out. Then at night, when it gets cold again, the pressure reverses, and the tree sucks up water from its roots, kind of refilling itself for the next day. It's literally like the tree is breathing. All right, so the tree's done its job. We've collected all this watery sap, but we're still a long way from pancake-ready syrup. So how do we get there? Well, this is where a little human ingenuity, and maybe a touch of alchemy, comes into the picture. And we have to give credit where it's due. This whole process was first taught to settlers by Native Americans. There's this great Iroquois legend, actually, about a chieftain who threw his axe into a maple tree. The next day, his wife saw this watery sap dripping out, figured, hey, it's just water, and used it to cook their dinner. The result was this amazing, sweet glaze, and just like that, a whole new food source was discovered. Now, the early methods were, well, a little rough. They'd cut a deep gash in the tree, which could cause a considerable amount of damage. But today, it's all about sustainability. Instead of a big gash, sugar makers bore a small, clean hole. It's something the tree can heal from easily, which means it can keep providing sap for decades to come. Okay, get ready for this. I'm about to give you a number that is just going to blow your mind. It's the magic ratio at the heart of all maple syrup production. Are you ready? 40-1. So what does that mean? It means it takes a truly considerable amount of that raw, crude sap, we're talking about 40 gallons, to yield or produce just 1 single gallon of syrup. 40 gallons in, 1 gallon out. Think about that concentration. It's just incredible. So how do they do it? The old-fashioned way. They boil it. For hours and hours, the sap is heated in a place called a sugar shack. And as it boils, huge amounts of water evaporate into steam. All that's left behind is that super concentrated sugar and that incredible, unique flavor that is maple syrup. Okay, so the long process is finally done. The pure syrup is bottled up and ready to go. But when you get to the supermarket, that's where things can get a little tricky. I bet you've seen this on a label before. Contains real maple syrup. Sounds good, right? But it might not mean what you think it means. It's a classic case of needing to read the fine print. Here's the deal. Real pure maple syrup should have exactly one ingredient: concentrated maple sap. That's it. But most of the pancake syrups you see are just corn syrup with artificial maple flavoring. And some brands, they'll blend in a teeny tiny amount of the real stuff, just enough so they can legally slap "contains real maple syrup" on the label. Okay, now let's zoom out from the breakfast table for a minute, because this liquid gold isn't just a topping for your waffles. It's a globally managed commodity, and it has a strategy behind it that is probably going to surprise you. No, you heard me right. You know how countries have strategic reserves for things like oil? Well, there's a global strategic reserve for maple syrup. It's this massive, multi-million-dollar operation, and its whole purpose is to control the world's supply. It's located up in Quebec, Canada, which makes sense since they're the world's biggest producer. And inside, they hold millions of pounds of syrup in these giant barrels. So what's the point? It's all about stabilizing prices and managing supply. If there's a bad year for the harvest, they can release some syrup to keep prices from skyrocketing. If it's a great year with a huge crop, they buy up the surplus and store it. It's all about making sure there's a steady annual yield for the whole industry. So, we've seen how nature makes this perfectly sweet, complex flavor, and we've seen how humans try to copy it with artificial stuff. And that got us wondering, what if you were the one in the lab coat? What if you were the inventor? All right, here's your challenge. I want you to design a brand new flavor. What ingredients would you blend together to make it? Would its annual yield be big or small? Would you need a considerable amount of some kind of crude ingredient to get started? Get creative. Describe your invention in the comments below. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the story behind something we see every day.
Hope you guys enjoyed that last lesson. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Ready for more? The next one starts right now.
What if you could actually talk to an animal? I don't mean just guessing what they're thinking, but a real back-and-forth conversation. Well, today we're diving into the incredible, true story of an animal who did just that. And in the process, she completely changed what we thought we knew about language, emotion, and the minds of the creatures we share this planet with.
So let me set a scene for you. One day, a heavy porcelain sink is just ripped clean off the wall in Coco the gorilla's home. Her teacher, Dr. Francine Patterson, comes in and asks who's responsible. And Coco, this 300-pound gorilla, just calmly makes a few gestures in American Sign Language, points to one of her human assistants, and signs, "The cat did it."
And that really is the heart of it all, isn't it? How does a gorilla learn to lie? Because lying, well, it's not simple. It means you have to understand what someone else is thinking, and then you have to deliberately try to plant a different idea in their head. So how on earth did a gorilla master a cognitive skill that complex?
This is the story of Coco and the incredible relationship she built with Dr. Patterson, a bond that was forged through the shared power of language. So, Coco was actually born in a zoo, but she got sick as a baby and had to be separated from the other gorillas. Dr. Patterson took over her care, and over many, many years, she patiently taught Coco American Sign Language. And Coco, well, she was a phenomenal student. She ended up mastering over 1,000 signs, which she used to express incredibly complex thoughts, feelings, and, yeah, even a few clever little lies. But her growing vocabulary did so much more than just show off a sharp mind. It really opened a window into a rich emotional world. And this all became crystal clear with one simple birthday wish that would change her life forever. You see, Coco absolutely loved looking at picture books, and she especially loved the ones with pictures of cats. So when Dr. Patterson asks her what she wanted for her birthday, Coco's request wasn't for a banana or a new toy. Using her hands, she asked for a cat.
At first, Dr. Patterson gave Coco a stuffed toy cat. Her reaction was immediate, and it was intense. She wasn't just a little disappointed. She was, in her own signs, furious. She completely shunned the toy, just tossed it aside and refused to even play with it. This was not the friend she had asked for.
Let's just pause on that word for a moment. Furious. From a psychological point of view, this isn't just basic anger. Fury often comes from a deep sense of betrayal or a really important emotional need that isn't being met. Coco didn't just want a toy. She wanted a real, living connection. So this artificial cat, it felt like an insult to that desire. In her action, to shun it was just as powerful. This is a deliberate, total rejection. She wasn't just being picky, she was actively communicating that this fake substitute was completely unacceptable. It was a counterfeit for the real friendship she was craving.
So a few weeks later, Dr. Patterson gave Coco her real wish, a tiny, tailless kitten. Coco was absolutely overjoyed. And, using her own creative logic, she gave him a name. She signed All Ball, because, without a tail, he just looked like a little ball of fur.
And with her new, real friend, Coco's truly amiable nature just blossomed. Despite her immense size and strength, to be amiable means having this warm, friendly, pleasant personality that just invites trust. And this gentle side of her really truly shone when she was with her tiny companion.
Coco, this incredibly powerful creature, would gently caress the tiny kitten with just one finger. And in return, Allball would clutch Coco's thick fur, just like a baby gorilla would cling to its mother for safety and comfort. They became completely inseparable.
Their friendship was just this beautiful, almost unbelievable thing to see. But as anyone who has ever loved an animal knows, that deep connection also opens you up to the possibility of profound heartbreak.
And tragedy did strike. One day, Allball managed to get out of the trailer, was hit by a car, and died. When Coco was told the news, she was just utterly heartbroken. Her caretakers said she didn't just seem sad. For days, she began to mope. And to mope is to get lost in this state of deep gloom, where you lose interest in everything that normally brings you pleasure. She was showing all the classic signs of grief.
But her story didn't end in sorrow. Her path to recovery was just so human. She mourned her friend deeply, but eventually, she was given a new kitten. And as she held her new pet, her caretakers saw a look of pure bliss just spread across her face.
Coco's story is about so much more than just her emotions. As incredible as they were, it's also undeniable proof of a complex, thinking, creative mind at work.
I mean, let's just think about the scale of her linguistic ability. A vocabulary of over 1,000 signs. That's incredible. But it's not just about how many words she knew, it's about what she did with them.
Just look at this. This is what true intelligence looks like. When Coco didn't know the sign for ring, she made up her own by combining signs she did know, finger plus bracelet. For mask, she signed eye and hat. This isn't just copying someone. This is creative, abstract thought in action.
And this brings us right back to that broken sink. That simple little lie, the cat did it, is evidence of a huge cognitive milestone that psychologists call theory of mind. It's the ability to get that other beings have thoughts and beliefs that are different from your own. To tell that lie, Coco had to understand that Dr. Patterson didn't know the truth and that she could plant a false idea in her mind. That is shockingly advanced thinking.
Coco's emotional intelligence touched everyone who met her, including the great Robin Williams. He actually visited her once when she was still grieving a loss, and he was the first person in months to make her genuinely laugh. They became instant friends. Years later, when Coco was told that he had died, she signed the words sad and crying. She mourned him, showing this incredible capacity for empathy.
So why does all this matter? Well, Coco's story forces us to look beyond the lines we usually draw between humans and animals. It's a powerful reminder that communication really is the key to connection, and that minds full of thought and emotion are all around us.
Which really leaves us with a final thought. Coco gave us this priceless glimpse into the mind of another species. So if you had that same ability, just for one day, what animal would you choose to talk to, and what would be the very first thing you'd ask?
Let us know what you think in the comments. And here's a little challenge. Try to use 3 words from today's explainer, maybe amiable, caress, or bliss, to describe a moment you've shared with an animal you love. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an update. I'll see you in the next one.